What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for a panel after the disastrous loss at the Amex. We've got a star-studded panel with you today, and starting off with the return of the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Cooper,
Right.
back on the channel. How are we doing, Coops?
Go on, Coops.
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's a bad time to come and talk about Spurs, but yeah, no, it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, we bumped into you, John, in Sainsbury's the other day before the Brighton game. We were like, oh, there's so many reasons to be positive about the club. You better get yourselves confident, better get yourself
And
excited.
what did I say? And what did I say to you at the time? I said, you are the most fickle Spurs fan I've ever met. You always do this. You always do this. So everything's going badly. We get a little run of games together, and you're like, get excited, John, get excited. And I said to you, look, I've been supporting Spurs for 40 years. I know the deal. You know, I'm a real.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah, no, it's, yeah.
It's good to have you back, John. It's good to have you back.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I hope all the Morosexuals are reuniting for this one. But Brian Daigle, good to have you back on the show as well. What's going on, brother?
It's always good to be back with you two up top, but what a reunion this is. The person I did my first ever watch along with, a fellow Morosexual at the time. And yeah, as soon as you invited me, it was always going to be a yes. But I did ask you yesterday, Ben, who's the other guest? And then when you said the great JC, a million times yes. And I look forward to this one.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I've been looking forward to this one all day, to be honest. But let's get straight into it.
George in the comments says, why are we so happy?
We're so happy.
We're not.
John Cooper is back on the show, people. Come on.
You wait until I get into it. You wait until I go stuck in.
Yeah, we might have to kick you off the stream at some point today. But look, we're going to start off talking about the Brighton game because obviously it was a really good first half. Everyone very excited at half time. But what the hell did happen in that second half? I'll start with you, John. What the hell happened?
Oh, no. Okay, so I've got a different take on this to I'd say 99.9% of every Spurs fan, right? I could see it coming in the first half. In fact, when we went 2-0 up, me and my mate Damien, he's not a Spurs fan, but at that point, at 2-0 up, we put a bet on it being 2-2. And that's the first half. I did that. So
it's
all these
your
Spurs
fault.
fans, all these Spurs fans saying, you know, brilliant first half. Like there were warning signs in that first half. Let's be honest. I know we were brilliant going forward and like we were pressing really well as a whole organism, but you could still see the space at the back. You could still see the little flash moments of Matoma, the crosses coming in. You know, they only needed to get on the end of one of those, and it was like a basketball game even in that first half. Even though we had the most intensity. We were winning those duels. We were getting the second balls. Me and my mate, who's a West Ham fan, he goes, this is going to finish 2-2. And I went, yeah, you're right. Like we're not going to hang on to this. So that was the first half. So most Spurs fans thought it was a perfect first half, but it wasn't, because I could see it was coming even in that first half. And it's one of those things with Ange ball. It's like you're either going to win 3-0 or you're going to lose 4-3 or something like that, you know. And if Brennan Johnson got onto the end of that and actually kept the ball down, the game could have actually finished 3-0. You never know, or 3-1, right? But just the way the game was going, it could have flipped either way. So I don't think we were completely watertight even in that first half. I could see the warning signs, and obviously second half, I'll let Brian tell you about the second half and how it all fell apart.
Go on, Brian.
Well, what can I just say? It's a common thing that happens at Tottenham Hotspur: lack of leadership. Sheer arrogance that the players think that we're bigger and better than what we think we are and we can get the job done. John was right. There were warning signs, but you thought 2-0, this is looking pretty comfortable. John's right with the chances that they were creating, but it happens with every single team. It's the Ange way. Chances are going to be created by the opponent. It's whether they capitalise on them. They didn't. For some reason, we came out in the second half thinking we were playing some kind of Sunday league team. And we can just walk and waltz around the pitch, the job is done. And as soon as pressure started mounting upon us, and you could see it, we're going to come on to other things later, there isn't a single Spurs player on that pitch, and I include our World Cup winner, our Copa America winner, that you think would rally the troops and say, right, this ain't happening, get up, fix up, sort this out. And we got burnt again. We could all see, you could see it in the stands. People watching it in the pubs, people watching it at home with their families, people watching what you could all tell what was going to happen with that second half pressure, and no one stood up. The only player I saw shouting and screaming and demanding more was Pedro Porro. The only one. We have a team that when the going gets good, they can play the great football like we did against Manchester United. But as soon as pressure is put upon us, there is no leader. There is no Julian. There's no Tony Adams. There's no Ledley King. There's no Steve Perriman. There's no Gareth Roberts. There's no Vieira, Keane, Terry. There's not one leader in that pitch that will say, fix up, sort this out. This is unacceptable. And we pay the price for it again.
Do you not? Don't you think though that it's? I mean, I think it's mainly down to Ange's system. I mean, I don't think Ange ball is sustainable, and I think this is the kind of the double-edged sword you get with Ange ball is that beginning of seasons when everyone's fresh, there's no injuries, you can play the high press, the team are building on confidence. There may be a run of games or something like that we've just had. The press starts to work really well, and then when the team's playing well, you'll notice Madison plays well. When the team doesn't play well, he goes missing. But what happens is when the players fatigue a little bit, when they get tired, when there's a slight dent in the confidence of the team after a bad couple results, the team doesn't start to press so well. It's a little bit disjointed, and then that Ange ball flips very quickly, and then you notice that it puts us on the back foot, and we actually look extremely vulnerable in that position. And I could just see in that second half that they weren't able to sustain the Ange ball, the high press. And then because of that, it allowed for the holes, the leakiness throughout the game. So I think a lot of that is down to the kamikaze ball that Ange is playing. I think that he's too one-dimensional in the way that he sets up the team, that he sees the 90 minutes. I don't think he's got the in-game management to adapt to different dynamics that occur within the game. And I think that's what ultimately costs us. And I think you're going to see games where we win 3-0 or we lose 3-0 or it's 4-4. It's going to be like that the whole season long.
John, you say that is like down to Ange's tactics and the way he sets us up to the team. But when you look at every goal that we conceded in that second half, none of it was down to because we were caught out with the high line. None of it was down to anything tactical. It was all down to individual errors. When you look at Udogi's mistakes, Romero's mistakes, Van de Ven's mistake, our defense was in a good system. Our defense was covered. We were covered. None of those goals should have happened.
Yeah, but you say that, but you can say every single goal you can see is down to some error. Every single goal. But the point is if you zoom in on the detail of it, you can see that there was errors, right? But zoom out a little bit, you can see that there was a momentum shift in that second half. That wasn't down to errors. That was actually down to the overall flow of the two teams and the energy and the winning the duels and the intensity, winning the second balls, all that kind of stuff. That's where the game was lost in the second half on more of a generalized level. And that is down to the system, the way that the team was set up and what Ange was trying to instill in the team. Has to be, right?
I don't think that's down to the system. I think it was down to the players on the pitch not implementing the fundamentals, what they had to do in the second half. I saw a clear lack of fight, a clear lack of motivation, a clear complacency issue within the team. The team weren't fighting in the second half as much they were fighting in the first half. I saw a lot of fight in that first half. I saw good mentality in that first half, and they came out second half in a completely different manner. I don't think that's tactical.
Look, John, when you look at that third goal, right? There's three players around Rutter. He's able to wriggle free out of those three players. When there's three players around him, he should never be able to get out of that situation. Bentancur is then, once he gets to the byline, he's in complete control of that situation, Bentancur, and he's tries to see the ball out of play instead of maybe putting out for a corner or something. Allows Rutter to get a slide challenge in, and then Welbeck has a free header because Romero's gone to sleep in the middle. Like, is Ange to blame because Rutter was able to wriggle past three players when surely Ange is in the setup we've got? There's three players around him. They should be able to deal with that situation. What's tactical? What would you like to see tactically in that situation that you would say? Like,
I'm not talking about the individual mistakes. I'm talking about you have to look at the big picture in the second half and what was actually going on with the eye test of the like you said, the energy, the motivation, the duel, winning the duels. But
what's that got to do with tactics?
Tactics as in like the in-game management, like be able to change it up. When you're 2-0 up, you don't have to keep playing that high press. You can soak up a little bit of pressure, create an out ball and try and change the game a little bit that way. You can use your subs earlier on in the game to sort of change things up a little bit. I feel like Ange's he's got plan A, but no real plan B, plan C. Doesn't know how to adapt when the going gets tough. I don't see him having a different way of changing things up in the moment to help the situation. I think that does cost us to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answered it or not, but like, it's the same thing. As
I think you're right. There was obviously a momentum shift, and I think Brighton were well on top of us in the second half, and Ange probably should have done more to change things when he saw things going wrong. But I don't think that's about Ange Ball being unsustainable. I think that's on the day. Like, he didn't react quick enough, and things were, and when things were starting to go against us, we had no way of turning that around. But I don't think, my point is, I don't think that's to do with how he sets up the team or his tactics and all this kind of stuff. Because I think in general, this season, actually, we've played quite consistently well. I think in general, apart from maybe that second half, we have limited the opposition's chances to a minimum, albeit some of them be good chances, but we have limited them to a minimum a lot of the time. And I think the way he sets us up and the way we play isn't necessarily unsustainable, just because we like to press high and we play with a high line and we like to have attacking football. I think the way we've been playing, yes, there are going to be problems like this that occur in the season. Do we puff out too quickly on the hour mark, and do we have to start looking at making earlier changes to make sure we can maintain that intensity that we have that we seem to have in the first halves? But that's an ongoing process that we have to overcome. But I don't think the overall way we play is unsustainable. Is my point.
Well, we'll know by the end of the season as well, what happens. Because that happened last season. For the first couple of months, we were flying and everything was looking good. But then what started to happen, few key injuries, and then, the confidence was a little bit shot. And then you notice that the whole team started to not believe in Ange Ball so much, and you weren't seeing all the passing out the back as fluid as it was at the beginning of last season. And then it all started to kind of decay a little bit. We rallied a little bit, and then it kind of petered out towards the end of the season. And the same thing happened under Poch. We were high pressing, very high octane, very energetic, but then we'd still burn out with like a month to go, like under Poch. Apart from the season, we got 86 points. So, I'm just thinking that could still happen under Ange. We saw it last season. And I just think that, when you're watching the games and you're seeing the two at the back, at least under Poch, what would happen is Eric Dyer would come back and make a three and make it a little bit more stable. But we are really playing that front foot football where it is kamikaze. Let's be honest, it's kamikaze ball. And so this is what you're going to get with Ange, these kind of results. So you've got to kind of take the rough with the smooth with it a little bit. You've got to kind of accept it, I guess.
Brian, I want to bring you in here. Which side of the argument are you with? Do you think it was a tactical issue in that second half, or do you think it was just the players with a clear lack of motivation and a clear complacency issue?
I think it's a bit of both, in all honesty, to sit on the fence. But I am leaning a lot more towards, we'll come on to Ange later, I think these players need to stand up and take a long, hard look at themselves. As I said, I think when we talk the leadership team and leaders, Spurs seem to have, we call people leaders experienced. Is Jay Madison a leader? No, I don't think he can lead a conga line. He's experienced. He's played games. I don't think there is a leader in there. Romero is all well and good and happy to slap people across the back of the head or punch people when we scored a goal. Where's that anger, aggression, and kind of commitment when the chips are down? Where are these people standing up saying this is unacceptable? How can we do this? John's right with we cannot keep doing this 90 minutes. It's unsustainable to play that high line and impact and all energy for 90 minutes. No team can do it. No team can do it. Even Pete Poch.
Exactly.
Had to make changes. You cannot do it. But there are players on that pitch, or a lack of players, that will not tolerate this and say, listen, this is unacceptable. We need to buck up, stop acting like this, hit it into Rosette if you need to, whatever. So whereas Ange comes in for criticism, and rightfully so in this game, you're right. In the first half, it's all well and good. We were playing well. Like John said, there were chances being created, but they weren't taken. We had opportunities to stretch the lead, didn't take them. But when the chips are down, go look. And you two boys, as well as many others that are probably in the chat, were there live, and a lot of us got to see it on TV. The body language of some of these leaders were abysmal and shameful. And there's no accountability held for it. And I think we've got to stop using the word leaders, because we don't have any. They're experienced.
Yeah, when you talk about taking accountability for that performance, particularly in the second half, at least James Madison was the only one in the whole squad that actually took accountability for that and came out on social media after the game and said it was completely unacceptable. And, you know, it's up to them to build that with the fans again and to put it right in the next game. It's just... obviously with Spurs, it's before an international break where these kind of performances happen, and we got 2 weeks to mull over it. At least James Madison's not going to England, and he's got 2 weeks to work on the training pitch with Ange now. But
I guess the debate we're having here is did the second half happen because they were asked to do too much and they were running on empty, or did the second half happen because the players themselves came out thinking the game was won and got complacent? Like where are we at with that?
It's the latter for sure. Of course, it's the latter.
Let me just.
John is implying it's the former.
So what I will say with this is, like Ben said, James Madison's the only one that's come out and said anything. How many times have we heard Tottenham Hotspur social media, our players, come out after the fact to say, "Oh, we're sorry, we come back bigger, we learn from this, we get stronger." Yeah. We do. It's always after the effect. Now
they can't
apologise before the game, can they?
No, but they can show it on the pitch. They can show it on the pitch at the time, can't they? I said it before. The James Madison, when the team's actually playing well and it's purring, he looks incredible. Like, he actually really starts to shine, right? When the team starts to dip a little bit, he goes completely missing. And I remember having this conversation before we signed him, and people were asking me, should we sign James Madison? Because I've got some Leicester City fan friends, you know, they said exactly the same thing. He goes missing in those games. He doesn't actually grab the game by the scruff of the neck. When you need a player to like really pick the team up and get things going, he's not that type of player. He's the type of player that adds those beautiful little touches to the team when the team's all performing nicely and it's like a nice cohesion to the team. But when that doesn't happen, like that second half against Brighton, you notice that he doesn't really do enough for me to show that leadership. You know, I don't think he does. I don't think he's that type of player anyway.
You say that, you know, you say, 1 second, you say, John, that, you know, he doesn't play well when the team aren't playing well. But in a season where Leicester got relegated, so, I mean, I don't imagine they played well in many games that season. He got 19 goal contributions. So it doesn't really play into that narrative.
Well, I'm just going on the eye test of what I'm seeing here, you know, and I just noticed that he looks great when the team are playing well, but when the team aren't playing well, he doesn't sort of step up and pull the team up with him. And that's just one of the things that the Leicester City fans told me as well. But
John, are you saying in terms of that second half against Brighton, are you saying that happened because how Ange plays is unsustainable, or do you think it happened because how the players came out, they thought the game was won, and that's why it happened? Is it a bit of both?
Well, it's both really, but at the same time, Ange is responsible for the players. Ange is responsible. It's the same thing. Do you remember we used to do the Hotspurs? And used to say to me, there's nothing wrong with the way Mourinho's playing this team. The only thing wrong is that we can't defend corners. That was like for months. That was what you said. And then when we started letting goals other ways, you said, okay, it's not just corners. It's just Eric Dyer that's the problem. Mourinho ball is fine. It's just Eric Dyer that's the problem. And I spent the whole year trying to tell you that it's actually Mourinho's way of coaching that's the problem here. Because and I keep saying to it, and you said no, but he's telling them to push on. You can see him at the sideline pushing him on, pushing the team on. And I said, yeah, but it's Mourinho's responsible for making sure that they press. And it's the same thing with this. If the players aren't responding, if the players aren't showing the leadership, if the players aren't doing what he wants to do, he has to step in. He has to instill that even on the training ground or during the game. He is still culpable. He's still responsible for that. Yes, the players should respond, but it's a dance between the manager and the players. It's not, you know. I'm
not saying he doesn't take responsibility. My question is more about it's not how he implements it. I'm talking about you're saying you're criticizing Ange for how he plays, not how he manages the team or whatever. Or that's not what I've heard anyway. You're saying the way he sets up the team and the way he likes to play football is unsustainable, and that is that's the reason we lost on Sunday. And I'm saying are you putting the blame on his system and how he likes to play, or do you put more blame on the players being complacent in how they came out in that second half? Not to say Ange doesn't. Obviously, Ange takes responsibility either way. But if we're trying to if we're trying to drill down into what the real problem is here, like Is it? Did we lose because the way we play is always going to concede chances, and the way we concede chances is built into the system, or did we lose because the Ange didn't make sure at half time this game is not won, and you have to stay on top of your game until we see it through?
Well, both, obviously both. You know,
why both?
Because it's never just black and white. It's never just one thing. Football is complex. It's like there's multi variables to football. You know, you can't just reduce it down to one common denominator. It's lots of different things. If you're asking me what's the core, I think that's what you're really asking me. Which is the predominant.
What if you?
I think the predominant thing is, I think it's the way that Ange sets us up and plays an Ange ball and the high press, and I just think teams can work you out after a while, and they can see that you can't keep that intensity up for the whole 90 minutes. I think they know that Ange is going to stick rigidly to that system throughout the 90 minutes, so that they can start to get at us. We don't sort of adapt at any point during the game and maybe go slightly to soak up pressure with an out ball and have a bit of an outlet, and then maybe counter that way a little bit. It's just purely that one dimension. You said about no leaders. I mean, you know, that's also down to the hiring and to the recruitment, right? To be able to get those leaders in. I mean, we lost Pierre, for instance, a leader. And you just brought in a load of kids. So how are you going to create that leadership in the second half when you've only signed kids in the summer? You know, so there's lots of things, and Ange is responsible for that, is he not?
I'm not saying he's not. Go on, Brian.
I just want to add very quickly with what I was saying beforehand about James Madison coming out and speaking after the fact. It's always the players. James Madison is meant to be one of those leaders that's meant to be doing his talking on the pitch, not off it. He's always flapping his gums before and after. Do you talk on the pitch? So all these leaders that are meant to be doing it on the pitch don't. But you know, one player that stood out and said, "Do you know what? I'm doing my talking on the pitch. Love him or hate him. Brennan goddamn Johnson hasn't listened. Did what he did with his social media. Came under enough criticism. And whether you want to say they're tap-ins or they're against weaker team, whatever." He hasn't come out to social media and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry for my..." He said, "Do you know what? I'm going to show you on the pitch." And he's done his talking on the pitch. I'm sick and tired of these players that are experienced, not leaders, going, "Oh, yeah, we're really sorry. We'll be better next time." There is a fundamental problem at Tottenham Hotspur, which is lack of leadership. And we use that word. Experience is now the new leadership because there's none at Tottenham. None.
Yeah, but hang on a second, Brian. We talk about leadership, right? And I agree with you to a certain extent. But when you point the finger at James Madison, I think's had a fairly good. I mean, he's been brilliant so far this season, from start till the 45 minutes at the end of the half. I mean, he hasn't had a bad season at all. He's had a good season. He has. He's had a good season.
Listen, again, that's eye test, whatever. Did he have a good game against Brentford and Manchester United? Yes. Half at Leicester. This is a guy that's meant to be one of our big players. If
you want to point fingers in the second half, you can't point to anyone that stepped up for the team in the second half, and that includes Brennan Johnson. It includes everyone.
Listen, that part I'm not disputing, and we'll come onto the defence and how kamikaze they were. But I'm saying people are saying James Madison came out and he's done his talking off the pitch. Do your talking on the pitch. Where was your? Don't get me wrong, his performance may have been okay. But when the game is turning and you need your leaders to grab the team by the scruff of the neck and say, right, this is unacceptable, do it. Where was it?
The player that I'm more annoyed about is Cuti Romero. You know, World Cup winner with Argentina. How many goals has he personally been culpable for this season? You know, I don't know if his head's out the door, one eye out the door, or 1 foot out the door, whichever expression you want to use. But that defending for that third goal was nothing short of disgraceful. Trying to track Danny Welbeck. And I think what John was saying about Madison, about when the chips are down, he's terrible. When the chips and when it's looking good, he's brilliant. I think Cuti Romero is a perfect example of that. I don't know what you guys think.
Where are our leaders as well? Like, where are the real, genuine leaders? I mean, I don't really see Madison as a leader. He's not like a Gerrard type leader, is he? You know what I mean? He's not like a Tony Adams type leader. Excuse the Arsenal reference, but you know what I'm saying here? Like the actual old school leader where they actually really pull the other players up. You know, we don't really have that. And don't you think that there should be a slight sprinkle of that within our squad to have that kind of leadership? I mean, most teams are aware of that and they have those types of players, don't they? I mean, it's something that I would say is that it's in the makeup of a lot of squads, is to have those kind of slightly, throughout the history of sporting football, you know, that they always say you have the young players, but you also have to have a few experienced players in there, a few leaders in there. But it seems as though we're building a setup here, a kind of a new makeup, which is just young talent only, and hope they get it right. And there's no real wise elders to sort of help those young ones through. So who are the leaders, and why did we not get any leaders, you know, in the summer, for instance?
Well, the whole idea is we're building a young team, and because we needed to get a lot of the old players out because they were past their sell-by date, and we're building a team that's very young, that's going to grow together and will have a bright future. And that's, I guess, the idea. Everyone said we needed a refresh and a rebuild, and isn't this what we're getting?
Yeah, but you can have a rebuild and you can have young players in there, but you can still also have some core leaders in there as well to help those young ones through. But I don't really see that in our team. I just see it's just like loads of kids thrown in there, and yeah, when the going's good, it's brilliant. You know, they
well, I guess the idea is supposed to be Son, Romero, Madison, and Vicario. That's the leadership group.
Yeah, but you know, if we're being honest, they're not the sort of player that would shout in another player's face, you know, and get them up to speed.
I mean, you've seen Vicario do that.
Yeah, okay, well, fair enough. Most goalies are like that, you could say. They're quite animated, you know, but I just don't think that's going to help with for the rest of the team. In the second half, he's not going to be able to affect all the 11, you know, the other 10 players, is he, from back there?
But also, like, having our captain not there, because I think Sonny is you know, he's good in that aspect, and you know, you see him G'ing up the players and stuff, and he's been injured obviously. But having no Sonny doesn't kind of give an excuse to the players to completely come out with a lack of motivation. I mean, these are the fundamentals that any Premier League or any football player in any level should be showing on that football pitch. And why was that missing in the second half? I just don't get it.
They just think that the job's done. They just literally, you look at it, people like Bentancur, his body language was absolutely abysmal throughout that second half. Forget his performance, just his body language. As John said, as I've been saying, you look at it, when he mentioned Tony Adams and Gerrard said, sorry for the Arsenal reference, these are people that have won things, that have gone on. And all these big captains you mentioned, they're that way. They're leaders. They get the job done. It's not all nice and pretty and, oh, come on, let's be having. They get at them, and I just think that switch off. I mean, we'll come on to lack of substitutions, which had a major part in it, and just sitting there again. We'll come on to it, but I don't understand how a team that's winning 2-0 like that and looking comfortable, yes, like John said, creating chances. Have been allowed, or as a team have just sat there and allowed this to happen. I don't understand the thought process, the body language, the mentality to just go, yeah, do you know what, job's done. Never think that.
Yeah, but like I said earlier on, you could see the warning signs in the first half. I know on paper 2-0 great. I mean, it was brilliant, you know, to go in half time at 2-0.
Wait, John, do you not think we deserve to be 2-0 up at half time?
Yes, but at the same time, it could have gone. It could have gone the other way as well. We did have the better. Don't get me wrong. We had the better of the half. We had the better chance.
I think Brighton had one chance like that whole half.
But then I wouldn't have put on the bet 2-2 when we were 2-0 up with my mate. You know, that was first half. We did that. So you tell me, why did I do that then? If it looked so one-sided.
I'm not
because
saying,
you're Spursy at heart.
You just know, yeah.
I know.
You're a Spurs fan.
I profit on our demise, but no. But me and my mate, we were talking. We could say, yeah, we're on top, but you can definitely see this could flip at any moment. This can flip because it is quite wide open, you know. And so I could see that in the first half. A lot of Spurs fans couldn't, because when you see the scoreline, it's almost like it blinkers your ability to see the intangibles of that half, if you know what I mean. But we could see the warning signs were there. Second half, obviously, you know, the goals reinforced the fact that there was a momentum shift. But for me, it's not just the goals and the mistakes. It's actually that change in momentum where they completely rolled us over, which is like the main issue there. And like you say, I don't know, you know, you've got to say, what does this come down to? Is it the players? Is it the leadership? Is it the management? Is it Ange Ball? Is it all of that? I mean, what do you guys think?
But me personally, I just thought the players just took their eye off the ball completely in the second half, and they just couldn't get that motivation back. They came out and thought the game was won, essentially. and it's nowhere near good enough. And I don't think we've seen those traits from the players so far this season. And it's something new within this season. Hopefully it was a one-off, and we got to pray that it was a one-off.
It's the first time under Ange we've conceded, we've not won from a 2-goal advantage. And usually we are quite good in those positions, especially when since Ange has been in charge. As soon as we go 2-0 up, we're quite good at managing those kind of situations. Yesterday was a bit of a new experience in a way, not for Tottenham fans, but for in terms of this Ange team. It was and for Ange maybe himself, it was a bit of a new experience of this team. The fact that we came out thinking the game was won and basically he said it, you know, in his we'll talk about his press conference in a bit, but he said, you know, we thought. I think the big difference was, I think in the first half we earned the right to play our football with how we came out in the pressing, and I think maybe in that second half we came out thinking we'd already earned that right, and we didn't have to earn it back again, if you know what I mean. And we didn't have to play your football. You have to kind of win those duels, win those challenges, so that you can get on the ball and you can exploit the spaces and you can get on top of the opposition. And we weren't doing those things. I think we came out in the second half thinking, oh, we're just gonna play around them, play our football, and we'll see out this game easily. Not with that fight, knowing that this Brighton team are going to come out with a heightened aggression. They're going to come out trying to get back in the game, and that kind of slipped our mind. We just thought we were going to easily see this game out. We'll just play some pretty football like we were in the first half. We don't have to really earn the right, because we earned the right in the first half. We're already 2-0 up, and it's just going to be easy going from then on. And I think we just completely lost our way in that second half. The worrying thing was the way we lost our way, and the fact that we didn't really even have a second wind, and we were even late in the game when Brighton are sitting back, we weren't even able to trouble them. That was even more concerning. But obviously the way we gave up the lead and went 3-2 down within 20 minutes was disgraceful, in the fact that we could tell there was a momentum shift and nothing was being done about it. But on the flip side, the even more concerning thing potentially is the fact that once that period is passed and the onus is then on us to create chances again, we offered nothing. I think Doggy had one shot. Doggy had one shot, and that was it.
It felt like it could have been like a 4-4 at some point, But then I remember in that last 20 minutes, I went, "Oh, it's going to stay 3-2 now."
Brighton seemed comfortable.
You just knew in that last 15 minutes, like that's actually it now. There's going to be no more goals in this game around. And I don't know what did you think of the substitutions? I mean, didn't Madison come off and Mikey Moore come on?
I think Werner came off for Werner. No, it wasn't Werner. Who was it that
Moore
that
came on at 85? I think.
Who was it for?
Sarr and Basuma came on for Madison and Werner, and Decky went into the front three, and then he brought Moore on, moved Decky back again. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think it's a learning experience.
Oh yeah, it was Madison for Moore.
I think
Madison for what? I mean, I don't know what do you think about that even? I mean, like you're chasing a game and you bring on Mikey Moore instead of for Madison. Like who? I mean, was he tired?
Well, we wanted Moore on. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe you should have brought Moore on earlier, because we brought one on 85. It was more for. Was it more for Madison?
It was more for Madison with 5 minutes to go. Yeah,
5 minutes to go.
What do you think of that?
Because he was having a terrible second half. He was having a terrible second half, I guess.
Yeah, but like, who's more likely to get you a goal? Like, even if he's not playing well.
I would have personally started Moore in the game on the weekend. For Timo Werner, but at that moment in time when where you could see there was a clear lack of motivation in the team, I thought it was unfair to bring on a 17-year-old kid when you saw what the team was actually about. I don't think Moore should have come on in that game.
No, and especially when you needed a goal. Like, I just thought it was a bit like, it's almost like Ange knew that nothing was going to happen. He just thought, I'll let Moore have a bit of a run.
Problem is, we didn't really have any attacking options. Moore was the best one we had.
The only one.
So we had Lancashire, we had Bergvall, but wasn't. We're slim.
Why don't we? Another reason.
Because Odegaard, Richarlison, and Son are all out. That's why.
Yeah. Okay, but. And we could have a conversation about recruitment at some point, but I don't know where you want to go with it.
We'll leave that to another day. I'm sure Brian will want to have his say on that during the transfer window.